Hello, welcome back to Drafty Dames. We are here today with me, Cassie, co-host Sara.
Hello.
And our special guest slash producer slash my boyfriend slash jack of all trades, Russell.
What up?
Yeah, Russell produces the podcast, so he's like our VIP today.
It's like
It's
our
like the
boss.
president's in town.
Yeah.
I prefer fearless leader.
Oh, Jesus. So today we're talking to you mamas and papas about staying together for the kids and the negative effects of doing so. Sara and I both had divorced parents. However, Russell's parents stayed together, but it wasn't always easy. So first we need to ask you our traditional big three. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. What is your most toxic trait?
I forgot this was a question. I don't know how.
That's good.
No, that's good.
We're glad you forgot.
Let's see. Most toxic trait. For me, for myself, it's probably procrastinating or underestimating how much time I have.
Yeah, we never get anything done. That was mine too.
I think that was mine too. Time management.
I don't remember what yours was.
I'm just a terrible person.
All around. There's too
Yeah,
many to list.
I just suck.
Yes.
For interacting with other people, probably pride.
That is a 7
She
days.
I was
nods-
like, we're just not going to
nods
say
her
anything.
head in agreement, but doesn't want to say that she agrees on the mic.
Russell's a pretentious douchebag. So what's your favorite mythical creature? Any myth?
Any myth, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Probably vampires.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Why?
They're sparkly, duh.
I always wanted to be a vampire. I would have also accepted being a werewolf.
I mean,
Yeah.
you sure sucked the life out of me. Slaps me.
So you're a Twilight fan is what you're saying?
No. Wrong vampires.
Try hard.
Tom Cruise.
Tom
Brad
Cruise.
Pitt
That's
vampires.
exactly
Team
what you're
Edward.
saying. Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoy the
You just like the gothic-y of it all, don't you?
yeah, I like
Same.
how
Yeah.
dark they are.
Yeah.
And then the idea of, I don't know, being immortal is cool. And then also
You hate
the
sunshine.
idea of, yeah,
It
I
all
do.
makes
Not
sense.
fond of the sunlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He already is a vampire.
Yeah, I actually say we live in a dungeon most of the time because it's always so dark in here.
Yeah.
Blinds and curtains.
Yeah. Not just
And
regular
just lamps,
blinds.
no overhead lights.
No. I never see any garlic around here either.
Fuck
Yeah,
the
it's-
overhead light.
Because
Yeah, vampires.
I'm a day walker.
he's foreshadowing by this question.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I love vampires.
Yeah.
Later on in the podcast,
He
he's going to
tries
be
to
like,
give you
I
a
love
hickey.
myself. And we'll
Yeah.
be like, there it is.
There it is. We knew it.
All right. So if you could talk to one person for an hour, living or dead, who would it be and why?
I can't pick. All right.
One
Like,
person.
I have two people.
Okay.
Is one living and one dead?
No, they're both dead.
Well, you suck.
Oh,
That's not what
so-
I asked.
Alexander the Great,
okay.
and then
Just
if
to
for
find
some
out how he got
reason-
that name.
Yeah, well, I
Read a
mean,
book.
actually,
Dude.
Alexander the Great, and then if for some reason I got fucked out of my wish and he didn't speak English and I couldn't actually have a conversation with him, I guess the other guy doesn't speak English either.
Well, great.
So either it depends on if I get fucked out of my language into a language barrier with them.
You might pick up both, like on a wavelength. Like
I
you-
don't even know who the second person
you
is.
The
can't
second
control-
person is Hitler.
Oh,
What the
jeez.
fuck? Why?
Does he?
Why?
You have to explain both of them. The
Okay.
question was, and why?
All right, Alexander the Great. I would like to have a. I mean, honestly, similar. And I picked them both for this question just because they both, you know, and I'm not shining light on Hitler per se, but they both achieved things that they set out to do. Alexander the Great conquered a third of the land that was known in his time, and built one of the largest empires that he could. Ultimately, pride was his downfall. When they told him not to walk into
Again,
the southern lands, and he did anyway. So I just think it'd be really interesting to have a conversation with a competent conqueror like Alexander the Great, and then also I would like to have a conversation with Hitler, knowing that he would also die again at the end of that conversation,
Right.
and not that I brought him back
Right.
to do more harm.
Yeah,
But
like they just go back. It's not a resurrection. It's just like, hey, I'm gonna talk to you for a minute.
Yeah.
See how you're doing.
We're going to
Yeah.
use a psychic for these, I guess.
Yeah, seances.
And then my goal for the conversation with Hitler would be to discern whether or not he believed all of the nonsense, or whether or not it was just mass
Like
manipulation
pandering.
to achieve a goal that he, whether he believed that goal to be true and something that he actually wanted to do, or whether or not it was entirely malicious in nature and he just figured out how to be a serial killer on such a large scale that
Had everybody behind him and like
yeah
cheering him on almost.
Yeah. I think he was actually mean, but we're not going to get into all that
I mean,
today.
he didn't get into art school. Wouldn't you just want to burn the world?
Yeah, and that's why I think he was.
Yeah.
There a lot of shit happened to him. It wasn't
Yeah.
just that, but the fact that you just think there's a better race makes you inherently evil.
Mm-hmm.
right. But I
So-
want to know if
and
it
want to
was-
kill if you're not.
Right.
Just yeah.
I agree with that. I just want to know if it was propaganda to achieve the goal he set out for, or if it was something he actually believed.
I like that.
Well, since you were supposed to have known what our big three were, thankfully
I
you
was ready for
forgot.
those two.
I guess. Okay, you just forgot the first one.
Yeah.
So we made extra credit questions for you.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yep.
everyone else gets blindsided by those and you don't.
Yep.
So we came up with extra credit, and Sarah is going to present those.
So, if past lives were real, what was yours?
Oh man.
If you
We-
don't believe it, then
and
my
we
question's
we
over.
don't want a podcast of a story here. Just
What was
quickly.
your past life?
What'd you do?
If you believe in them.
Where were you at?
Do you ever have this feeling you're just like, man, I feel like I've done this before,
Born
and it
in the
might
wrong
have been,
decade.
yeah,
kinda
like a past
thing.
life.
Yeah, I think I was an adventurer in a previous life.
Cool.
Because I hate how small the world feels now, and I can't imagine what it was like, 200, 400 years ago when you thought the earth had edges,
Yeah.
or, even further back. So I think at some point in one of those past lives, I was definitely wondering about, because when I play Minecraft, that's all I do is just kind of wonder see what's out there, see
Yeah.
what the landscape looks like. So that's definitely what I feel I was in one of those. And then I feel like in another one, I had convinced a lot of people that I was a wizard, and then probably burned to death.
Oh.
Must have been around the same time I was a witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I feel
Okay.
a little witchy sometimes.
So, what scene in a movie has evoked the most feeling out of you? Whether it be sad, happy, anger.
Does it have to be a movie?
Yes.
It's movie or song.
TV series?
I'll allow it.
Does it need to be a movie?
I just don't
It
know
can
why
be a
you can't
movie.
answer the question.
Because the first scene that came into mind wasn't from a movie.
Then yeah,
Yeah,
whatever
then do
you,
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever,
speaks to
Russell.
you.
Okay, look,
We'll do everything your way.
I'm not trying to be difficult.
It's
No,
not
I'll
called
allow it.
Drafty
I
Dick.
can do.
It's Drafty James. You
I
don't get a say.
mean, I can do a movie then.
I don't care. really.
Whatever you
I'm
think
just
of.
being ridiculous. Go on.
Okay. Well, the first thing I thought of was How I Met Your Mother.
Oh man, don't go on.
The first time I ever watched anything and really like had a tear was when I was watching through How I Met Your Mother episode after episode, binge watching it essentially, and I got to the scene where Lily gets out of the taxi, and I can't even talk about it. And
I know what it is. I just got chills.
She rushes over to Marshall and she tells him that his dad died, and it's not even that moment. They hug, and he says, "I'm not ready."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I can't handle
The
this.
countdown always gets me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so a lot of people, I was going to bring that up. A lot of people don't know, if you go back and watch that episode, there's little things in the background that's a countdown, like the cab number and like the street sign, and you just kind of have to look for it, or somebody will hold up 4 fingers and it's a countdown from like 30 to 1. And yeah, so it goes 30, 29, 28.
Yep.
And then I think the cab is 1.
Yes.
It's cab number 1, and at 1, Lily tells
her.
Marshall,
Yeah.
and I want to kill myself now.
I always know it's coming, and I always get so upset at that one.
I didn't know about the countdown until I think the show had ended, and I had to go back and rewatch it to look for the numbers, and
yeah.
I just really hate reliving that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was actually the first time I'd watched media that had made me feel such a strong emotional connection that I had a tear.
Yeah. It's a good show.
Marshall didn't deserve it.
No. And I loved his dad. Okay, so if you were given a choice on how you would die, what would you choose? Like, you got to pick it. What would you choose?
10 years of buildup leading me to wielding the Infinity Gauntlet and saving the people of Earth.
Fuck you.
Love you 3000.
Aww.
Go watch the In-Game podcast.
It's so good.
You'll understand.
Yeah.
I pretty much cried the whole movie week after podcast. Still sometimes cry.
Yeah.
Preferably...
Probably should have announced that was a spoiler alert.
Well, they've had time to watch it.
Yeah.
Preferably old and in my bed.
That's my life.
Surrounded by
Loved ones.
Yep. If I had to choose a more violent death, then I don't know, stopping the next large terrorist attack.
Oh. Okay. I just want to go out and like I don't know, gunfire.
I just don't want to die.
Hail of bullets.
So I'm trying not to do that.
Pretty much not drowning.
That's
So.
the worst.
See,
way.
I couldn't
or
do
being
a fire.
burned alive.
Yeah. Ugh.
No,
No.
thank you.
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering our extra credit questions.
You gotta be for not following directions. But anyway.
He's like, find X, and then he circles it.
Yeah.
Do I need
Or
to
it's like
stay-
the one
See you
where
after
you
class.
put your name in the top right corner instead of on the name line, but you had to read the whole page. You just did that. You put your name on the name line, and you just did what you wanted anyway.
Do I need to stay after
So,
class?
yeah.
Smack the erasers.
So, back on track here. Before that got too far, tell us a little bit about your parents, how they met, their kind of dynamic. Take us on a journey, the evolution of your parents, yeah, and you.
They were young, teenagers, when they met. I know my mom had moved to a pretty rough part of Indy from her childhood town, and then they kind of met, and they just they had a neighborhood they ran around pretty much. I mean, neither of them really went to high school, and then
So is that how they met? Just like living in the same neighborhood?
yeah, just like living in the same neighborhood, drinking. They're both pretty heavy into drinking from a pretty early age, and then they these fucking kids are distracting me. Don't do that to me.
So they met.
So they were both pretty heavy into drinking from an early age, and they kind of met through parties and things like that, as far as I remember them telling me the stories. But they've been together since I think they were 16 when they first got together. So they were together for quite a while before they had me. They ended up moving out of that neighborhood, which was one of the worst neighborhoods in the area. And then they had me. I think they were 22, 23. And then they got married 6 months later. And they've pretty much been together ever since.
Nice. That's pretty par for the course. I mean, back in the day, like, my parents were married right out of high school. They were 18 and 20.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
pretty young.
My mom would tell me a story about when, like, they started going to church, and the pastor they had me with them. So the pastor was like, said something along the lines of, "Are you guys living together? You got a kid?" Kind of guilted from my perspective, from hearing the story, it sounds like they were guilted into getting married. But different times, right?
Yeah. So what's like your earliest memory?
Playing out back with Hot Wheels in the dirt, I think, is probably my earliest memory. I also remember laying in the middle of so there was a house that we lived in for like 5 or 6 years of my childhood, and they lived in an apartment before that with me that I probably shouldn't remember, that I don't know that I actually remember. But I do remember a Halloween where I was laying on the floor watching The Simpsons specifically, and listening to them talk about taking me trick-or-treating when I'm older. But I don't know, like, it's such a weird thing to have a memory from when you're like 2,
Yeah.
like, and uncommon, that I don't know that it's an actual memory as much as it's just
Made up.
But like, I described the apartment to them at one point, and they were kind of like, "That's weird."
I did the
How in
same
the
thing
heck?
to my
What that
mom.
looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like, because we lived in a house before that, like, my mom and dad even broke up, and they broke up before I was in kindergarten, and I told her, like, how the house was laid out and what color each room was and how it was decorated, and she was like, what the
How
hell?
do you even remember that?
I don't know, I just do.
You and your interior
And-
decorating skills.
Yeah, and it's so weird because I have memories of, like, playing with kids around the neighborhood, and, like, it just doesn't all add up, because why would my mom have let me run around the neighborhood when I was, like, 4 or 5?
Yeah.
So I don't know how I have those memories. Like, I remember them coming over and us watching Space Jam and stuff. Yeah. So I'm just real confused about my whole life.
Yeah. Timelines are usually blurry.
Yeah, so I don't know why I remember that, because like I remember my mom and my future stepdad, I think they were just dating at the time, taking me to kindergarten. So I know my mom and dad weren't together.
Yeah.
So it's just really weird. All that's really
That is
weird.
super weird. Okay. So which parent are you closer to?
My mom, for sure. I mean, all my life, pretty much.
Yeah.
My dad doesn't really like understand emotions. So he, like, I feel like he always struggled to kind of like cultivate a relationship, and it was always kind of like, we were only ever gonna have like a close relationship if I was into the things that he was into, which is like fishing and working on cars and things of that nature, none of which I have any actual interest in.
Yeah.
I remember he would sometimes play video games with me, but then like he would just get mad or frustrated, and then I didn't want to play that game anymore, because it's not fun when
you're
know,
always
screamed
pissing.
at.
yeah.
So I know that you're like pretty against staying together for the kids, if you had any,
Right.
So, like, what, I guess, a quick summary of what happened in your life to make you feel that way?
So I didn't really understand, like, why my parents were together for the longest time. Pretty much through all my teenage years, I never understood it because, I believe if it ever gets so bad where a couple is taking breaks away from each other, then, like, why are you together? Like, why even go any further? If there comes a point in time where you can't actually sit down and, like, talk it out, and you need to be separated for days at a time, like, what's the point? It's like, just get it over with.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people fall back on that excuse, and I feel like that's what it is. I feel like staying together for the kids is an excuse that they tell themselves to make themselves feel better about not having the courage to leave a situation that they're in.
Yeah.
So, but it's also kind of twofold, because I feel like a lot of the problem with my situation growing up with my parents and everything was like partially me induced, because I wasn't an easy kid. I was mouthy, and, you know, I wanted things my way, and I never really felt like I had a say in anything that was going on with the family. So it was like, they're like, yeah, I mean, you're a part of the family, but am I really? Like, I know I'm a kid, but
Yeah.
and even now, like, you know, thinking about having kids in the future, like, if you're making large family decisions, like, and you take all of the decision-making power away from your children, you know, you're essentially saying that their opinion doesn't matter. You're essentially telling them that they don't matter. Yeah, you have to make certain decisions. Like, if you get a job somewhere that's 3 states away, and, you know, they're not necessarily going to like that, but you have to come up with compromises on all sides of the aisle, where, like, the kids still feel like they're part of the family. Like, it can't just be, oh, this is my house, this is my rules. And I feel like that's where, if you're a parent that's going to say, oh, this is my house, this is my rules, like, you probably shouldn't have kids.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that is beyond selfish.
They're a tiny person. They
Not
have
objects.
feelings too.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not yours to
They're not
control,
property.
manipulate. Like, yeah, they're not property. Like, you're there to protect them and guide them and raise them.
And give them a
And-
happy life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It should be
Yeah.
a stress-free situation on
Yeah.
all sides of the spectrum.
But I also feel like, you know, when I was growing up, those weren't the things that were taught. Like, I've read multiple articles and a lot of stuff during the 90s, which that was the primary time in which I was growing, in early 2000s. A lot of even television content, it always showed parents being divisive over the children. And I mean, I do feel like my mom took my side way more often than she should have, putting my parents at odds with each other.
Yeah.
Because you get into this mindset where you have a child, or like a parent has a child, and they get closer to that child than they are with their spouse. And I mean, there's 2 things there. One thing is, you know, you can't let that happen, because your kid is going to grow up, your kid is going to turn 18, your kid is going to grow out and find their own lives, and then you're left with this person that you don't really know if you spent 18 years caring more about the child than your marriage.
Yep.
So there's just a lot there, and I'm struggling a little bit to organize it. But in the 90s, a lot of media and a lot of, I mean, even self-help books, and a lot of the stuff that was out there was, you know, protect your kids and take care of your kids. It wasn't until recently that we've started seeing articles that say, hey, you have to put your marriage before your children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, don't alienate your kids, but, like, you have to put your marriage before your children, because your children are people that you are helping raise to a point to where they can become self-sufficient and take care of themselves.
Yes.
And when they do that, you have to have something left when they're gone. You can't make your whole life about your kids.
yeah. So that's really, I like that you brought that up, because when Russell and I first got together, he said that, you know, him and I's relationship is more important than our kids. And, like, I had a big problem with that. as most women do, if you're listening and you're thinking, what the hell right now? So like my mom was a single mom a lot, like between husbands. And, like, yeah, that's kind of what we're instilled. Like, always take care of your kids, you know, don't put any man above your kids. But when it's the father of your kids and you're still together, like Russell's right. And like that needs to be more important. One, because you need to show your child what love is and what a good relationship is. If you have a little girl, if your husband's abusive and beating you and shit, that's what she's going to look for. If you're the mom taking it, she's going to take it.
Yeah.
If you're the mom beating him, she's going to be mean to all the boys. And like same with son, like they have to learn how to treat somebody.
Yeah.
And they're going to learn that from you and your husband or you and your wife.
Yeah.
So yes, while the kids are important and, you know, they're your little people you have to feed and take care of, like their emotional well-being's good too. And like, you don't want to raise
Little
mean
assholes,
people. Yeah. Like you don't want to raise, you want them to grow up, get married and have a happy life like you had.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, if you and your husband or you and your wife can't work it out and it is toxic for them to see, then like you need to leave, because if you're going to be happier with someone else, they need to learn from you and someone else, not you and their dad that it's not working out with.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom's never really had a good husband. Her husband now is great. And like, I mean, he was there probably when I was going into 7th grade, and like he treated my mom like a queen and still does. And so now that's what I expect from Russell, because the first guy didn't treat her well. I definitely don't want that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it also, you know, you have to find, if you are going the step parent route and you did break up, and you have to find someone that's going to be a good example for your kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also important too, because thinking about, you know, kids versus your marriage and which one to put first.
Yep.
So even if you have even if you get into a situation where you're not with the father of your kids and you have kids and you now have a step parent to your kids, if you've made the right choice, if you've made the proper decision, and I'm not saying, you know, pick up the first piece of shit that will come in and like help you watch your kids.
Don't do that.
Right.
No.
Don't do that. And I'm not saying put that guy first.
Yeah.
I'm not saying put that relationship first. I'm saying if you've made the proper decision to find a guy who does come in, who does, you know, help you, who does want to encourage you and build you up and, you know, help raise your kids, and however the two of you decide that's best to raise those kids, you know, you still need to put that marriage over those children, even though he's not the father of your kids.
Because they're watching that marriage.
Yeah.
Regardless. I mean,
that is the parents is a child's first experience of love.
Yeah.
In and out. Like it's
For sure.
The first unconditional love from the parent that they feel, and then it's the first romantic love that they watch between two people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to shape and mold them as they get older.
That's so much pressure.
Yeah, no, everyone's like, all the time people are just like, we'll just have kids. Like, you know, you're never going to be ready.
Yeah.
You can be more ready.
For sure.
Like, you're never going to be 100% ready to just be like, oh no, I'm responsible for this human life now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you can be more ready than you were 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's still about picking the right time for a person when they're going to have them.
Yeah.
which kind of brings me to my next question.
Well, I had one thing. What you said about like the parent not relying on the children so much.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a term for this, and I was watching a YouTube video. Her name's Katie Morton. She's a therapist, and she like uploads videos all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, there was this one, and it like really resonated with me, and it's called covert incest or emotional incest,
mm-hmm.
where it's a type of abuse in which a parent looks to their child for emotional support rather than their significant other.
Yeah.
And they treat the child not like a romantic partner. It's nothing physical, but it's like they're just telling the child way too much, more than they need to know, like sexual things or just stuff that a child never needs to hear from their parents.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, oh my God, like, I know a ton of people that this is like pertaining to, like their parents are oversharers and like it's creepy.
It's too much.
Like
yeah.
you should not know this much about your mother or your father. And I'm just like, holy crap. So like sent it to a bunch of people that I was like, this is what's happening. Like,
Yeah.
watch this. Like, just watch her video.
Yeah.
And it like, I was just floored.
And I don't think that's so much of even like while you're an adult, because like my dad and stepmom make like gross jokes and stuff.
But not
like,
your 12-year-old daughter.
Yeah,
or
you shouldn't
son
be telling
or,
your 12-year-old daughter the texts you found in your husband's phone
Yeah.
and things like that. Like,
yeah.
that's and like it's hard for women too that are like moms because they don't have the friendship groups that they can go to because
Yeah.
they've spent all their time on their kids.
Yeah. But you also don't need to tell your 14-year-old daughter, like you just said,
Yeah.
text that you're finding from
But like that's
your
your
husband's
in their
mistress.
mind, that's their best friend.
Right.
Like they don't have anyone else to talk to. They have
Right.
to talk to someone, so it comes out to their
Yeah.
kid. You know, so like moms, it's important to have friends. Go make friends. I'll
Yeah.
be your friend.
I'll be your friend.
Don't talk to your kids about stuff they
Yeah.
don't need to know. Talk to me.
Yeah.
So one question, as we were talking about how our parents' relationships affect us, how do you think their relationship growing up watching them has affected your relationships as an adult?
Tremendously.
I could tell ya. I'm just kidding.
You met me at the strangest point in my life because I was like, wow, I got to really figure out how to grow up. My early relationships, I would say more so my early relationships more so than my adult relationships, because I mean around 25, 26, right before we got together, was when I started noticing things about my behavior that were extremely toxic.
Got lucky then.
I
Dodged that bullet.
I don't think I fully understood what I was doing. I just knew that I didn't want that kind of relationship like my parents had, and I didn't want to be the type of husband or male in a relationship that my dad was. It's also like there's a difference of timing and age, but there's you see a lot of younger guys start to fall into patterns that if you're close to their families or whatever, that they don't really realize they're falling into those patterns, but will still end up a shade of their parents' relationship, or you can see those like micro reactions in their relationship. And there are still days where I struggle not to be certain ways. But I watched a very demanding type of relationship growing up, and my first couple of relationships in my early 20s were very me being demanding and controlling, and hey, this is how it's going to be, or there's the door, and things like that. And it was emotional distress or holding relationships hostage, or even just like putting someone down to the point to where they don't feel like they could do any better, which is a very typical tactic of sociopathic relationships.
Yes.
And those were patterns of behavior that I watched that I very much unfortunately emulated in my early 20s. But eventually I sort of seen what I was doing, and that I had to develop and grow out of those things. And you get it stuck in your head that you want it a certain way, and that's the way it should be. But you have to really understand your prejudice on where you developed that from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not enough to think about, oh, is this thing that I'm doing right or wrong? You have to figure out where you got that thing from.
Right. Why do I
anyway.
have this mentality? Why do I think this is the way it needs to be?
Right. And then once you've meditated or thought back on it far enough to where you've discovered where that came from, even if it's just one particular point in your life or one particular moment or memory of your childhood that you remember, you have that. You then know where it came from, and it's a lot easier to divert from that almost predestined path. But we make our own destinies, right? Like there's nothing
nothing
is predetermined.
Yeah.
And then you have to figure out, at a certain point you have to stop blaming your parents for stuff, because and I was 26 was when I stopped blaming my parents for
you're like, I'm just
my
an
behavior
asshole.
and my actions. Yeah, it was like I just woke up and I was like, I've been on my own for at least 7 years. What have I been doing in those 7 years that I still have to blame my parents for?
Yeah.
And so you have to take responsibility for those things on your own sometimes and figure out how to change them and grow out of them.
Yeah, that's really big of you, because some people will just be 45 years old and be like, well, it's just the way my parents did it, so that's why I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a cop-out. Like,
yeah,
it's
for sure.
Change hurts. Growth hurts. Like, it is painful. Like,
finding a flaw or a fault within you is shitty.
Because as soon as you, like, pinpoint that flaw that you realize is holding you back,
mm-hmm.
every instance that you can remember that flaw took over hurts.
Yeah.
And it's like this tremendous pain that you ignore for so long because, like, maybe you don't realize it or maybe you don't think about it. It's like embarrassing yourself.
Yeah.
Essentially, like, you maybe you fall down in front of 5 people and you're embarrassed. You're like, oh man, I just fell down in front of those 5 people. Even though I'll never see them again, I'm embarrassed.
You're still, your pride hurts real bad.
So then you think about all the other times you fell down accidentally in front of 5 people or 4 or 3 or whatever.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
And you're embarrassed all over again. It's like that. You find that toxic thing and you're like, this is toxic. And you would finally get the courage and admit to yourself that this is a problem.
Yep.
Anytime you can think of that you reacted that way or felt that way is going to hurt all over again because you're like acknowledging finally that.
You're like, oh, this is a huge issue.
Yeah. So change hurts
yes.
and growth hurts, and people don't want to do that because it's difficult.
People don't want to admit they're wrong. And I feel like that's why a lot of times people don't want to even say the word divorce, because then they feel like they're failing.
They're a failure, yeah.
And they're like, we've tried everything. We've done everything we can. Like, we just can't make it work. And that's okay.
Yep.
Like, sometimes people just are not compatible. But, like, how do you feel about marriage counseling? Do you think it's worth a shot, or?
I think when you decide that you want to get married, you should just immediately start going to marriage counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Just fuck it. Why not?
Yeah.
Like, if you're so prideful that you can't talk to someone about yourself, there's already an issue to work on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, if you can't already admit that maybe an outside source might have better perspective than you, you've already found the first thing that you need to work on.
And a lot of times they think of things like you don't even think of. Like, I'm kind of religious, my husband not so much. But, like, a question is, like, how are you going to raise your children? Are you going to raise them to be religious? Are you not? Like, that's a huge question you need to ask before you marry someone.
Yeah.
And, like, we've decided, like, we'll let them be their own person. We'll let them decide what they want to do. But, like, some people, like, are gung-ho, like, their religion. But if their husband's not so much, like, they probably wouldn't marry said other person if their religion is a huge factor, because, like, if the other person's not religious. But, or finances, like, are you going to have a joint account? Stuff like that.
Yeah. Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell actually started going to couples therapy when they were dating, before the kids, before marriage, before anything.
Yep.
And I mean, I know they got money, they can afford it, but it's not a bad idea. But yeah, like Russell said, as soon as you decide you want to get married, you should. And
That's part of it, I think.
like, also, like, ask these questions.
Mhm.
Like,
Do you want children?
yeah, are you religious? How would we raise our kids? How would we do that? Because people get married so quick without knowing things, and it's stupid things that wouldn't have to end your marriage, or they'll date from high school until they're 25 and then get divorced because one of them doesn't want kids.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's a huge question you ask before you make
that's
that.
just not something
But a lot
you
of people
know.
are like, oh, they'll change their mind. Oh,
Yeah.
they'll change their mind.
And don't bet on them
No.
changing their mind, because they won't always.
But also,
you
like,
can't change
if
somebody.
you do end up pregnant, like, and they don't want kids, like, they're out. Like, they told you from the beginning, like, I don't want kids.
Yeah, so don't try to trick them either.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I feel like, especially this day and age, people rush into it too, and they don't actually get to know. But that's why you go to couples therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll know then.
Yeah, but also, like, divorce is
Don't
way
wait till
down.
Yeah.
Like, before, like, the divorce rate from, like, the 80s and before was, like, 40 to 50% of marriages ended in divorce. Nearly half. But now, it's only 39%. Because us millennials who get the bad rap, we're waiting until we're nearly 30 to get married.
Yeah, we're waiting longer to get
Yeah,
married.
we have our hoe phase before we get married, not during.
And we can't afford divorces.
Yeah. So we're saving our money. We're making sure we're financially stable.
Yeah.
And, like, getting our career out of the way, because we're career driven now. Like, we don't have to have the white picket fence and the dog and everything at 18 like our parents and grandparents did. Like, we can wait a while. And, like, cohabitation is very much a thing now.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be married to live together.
Yeah.
Like,
and, you know, live together and have roommates.
yeah.
Like we do.
Yeah.
But, like, I agree that we're, like, also waiting longer. But even in my lifetime, I had been told that you can't have kids after 30.
Yeah.
Which is not true at all.
Not even kind of true.
But, like, literally all through high school, like, even I thought that up until I met women that had kids after 30, I thought that you couldn't have kids
they act
until
like
30.
our ovaries are a ticking time bomb, and like they know, like, your 29th birthday, they're starting to shut down. They're locking up, sweeping
they're
under
packing,
the rug. Yeah. Like, no more eggs, sorry.
But I mean, one of my friends had, God, she was like 36. Like so, like, I feel like a lot of people were rushed because they were lied to.
Yeah. Or, like, just like I said, like, our parents,
I
our
was lied to.
grandparents, our great-grandparents. Like,
yeah, they all had him young.
yeah, went to high
So-
school, got married, boom, popping out 6 kids.
Yeah.
Like, that's the social norm back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, now we're making a new one where we're waiting.
Yeah.
And we're not settling. Like, just because you're high school sweethearts doesn't mean you have to get married. And, like, my parents were, they're now divorced. So,
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter.
So when do you think that your parents should have thrown in the towel? Do you think that it just would have never worked? Do you think it was good up until a point? Like, if you could have decided, like, hey, I want my parents to separate, when would you have told them to break up?
13.
13?
Okay.
Probably. I remember being young, like, when I was just, like, stopped understanding why they were married. Which is, I don't know, it's weird because, like, I commend them for still being together and still, like, pushing through.
They're really
especially,
trying, yeah.
You know, they've been through a lot. They've been through a lot together, and they've put each other through a lot. And, you know, I can say one thing, they do love each other. So it's interesting, but they're also, my mom is appreciates her Christian values a lot, and so there's kind of a lot there on, I feel like, some of her decision making.
For sure.
And my dad is similar, but it's I don't know, it's weird. It's not the same. Like, one of them is, my mom is much more into going to church and living a Christian life, and my dad is, like, believes those things and, like, does those things for the most part, but it's a little bit more, I don't know, old man like. Yeah, if you know what I mean, like, if that makes any sense. I don't really know how to explain that, I guess. But, you know, I mean, ultimately, I guess I'm glad that no one listened to me as a kid. Because, like, as an adult, I don't know how I would feel if they would have. And they, like, because I was mad about it for a long time, like, as a teenager, like, pretty much throughout my teenage years.
That they stayed together?
Yeah, I was just like, I don't get it. Like, all you guys do is fight.
Yeah.
Like, but, you know, there's a lot that I learned from them staying together. Like, I learned a lot about how to not be, and, like, how to maybe try to work on things a little differently. And fighting and yelling and screaming, like, it doesn't get anyone anywhere. You know, reacting, having those knee-jerk emotional reactions doesn't get anyone anywhere in a conversation, in a fight. And
Absolutely.
I feel like I took a lot away from their marriage in a different light than as necessarily, you know, like, hey, maybe they weren't like the prime model and example of what a couple should be, but
they still taught you a lot.
I still learned a lot. And that's kind of what's important as parents, is to make sure that, you know, you're at least teaching through one method or another.
Yep. So, was there like a fight or anything in particular? You're just like, holy crap, can they just be done?
Yeah, what was the breaking point for you?
Yeah, you said 13. Like, what was that?
It was just, I can't, I mean,
You just kind of were done with
Just
it?
over it?
I can't
Yeah.
pinpoint a fight.
Not a for instance, yeah.
Like, you think we fight a lot. I'm like, I don't at all, because we have days
I
where
don't
we
anymore. We used
But
to.
even then, I don't necessarily think that we fought a lot, because my example of fighting a lot is every other hour, or every day at least once.
Yeah.
And I just remember them just fighting constantly. But, you know, I also don't know how much of that was stress induced by neither of them graduated. My dad in job situations was always precarious. It wasn't necessarily stable, partially due to their education. But they also had parents who, their parents had failed them far above and beyond what they did for me.
Yeah.
So, like, they had no real example of how to be when raising kids. And I mean, looking as an adult and looking back on all of that now, I feel like, you know, they did a really good job.
That's
as
how I
far
feel
as, you know, what they had to look at. Just because, like, and, you know, it's stories, but I also know one of my grandparents pretty well, and I don't understand how anyone can become functioning after having to deal with her. But my dad's functional at the least, so
That's a step in the right direction, I
yeah.
guess.
But yes, I mean, I didn't understand all the hostility, and I was a kid, and it created a lot of anxiety for me.
Yeah.
So it was just consistently like, if you're not happy, because to me it was like, especially as a kid, like, if you're not happy, like, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Like,
Why put yourself through this much
Yeah.
stress and anguish just
Yeah.
to do it all again tomorrow?
Yeah. And that's pretty much all it was.
Yeah.
That's all it looked like to me.
Yeah.
As a
Like,
kid.
when my dad called me and was like, hey, come over to your mom's house, because they were already separated, like living separately or whatever. Like, he had moved out for a little bit, and like he came back for a while, and he's like, hey, come to your mom's house. That's how he said it. So I was like, that's weird, why would he call it mom's house? So I go over there, and like he told me, and I like wasn't upset, like I cried, but like it was mostly just relief.
It was probably more real when he moved out than when they said we're getting divorced, right?
Yeah. Well, he like moved out for a while and then came back, and like they worked on it. So like
And
this was
then-
when he officially left. So yeah.
Okay.
But like I cried, but like I think it was just like a relief, like it's finally happening, thank God.
Yeah.
Like I already moved out for a while. Like I had been out on my own for like 2 or 3 years when they finally decided to like officially call it
Yeah.
quits.
See, and I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
From
So and that's another
from my
thing.
dad and
Yeah.
mom being together. Like, I remember what our house looked like, but I don't remember them interacting. I remember one time we got our dog Honey. She was a golden retriever, and she was a little puppy. We put her on a dining room chair, Like, she was just sitting there and she started looking at the ceiling fan and watching it spin and fell off the chair. And that's like the only memory I have as like us four as a family. Like me, my mom, my dad, and my sister. I have more memories with my mom and my sister and my grandma than I do my mom and my dad.
Yeah. And see, that's different for me. Like, that's all I ever knew.
Yeah. So like all I ever knew was that they were not together. Like, even when they were together, they weren't together.
Right.
Like, we never did anything together. So not that I remember. Like I said, I was super little.
Yeah.
But.
And, like, I'm still adjusting to the whole step-parent thing. Like, both of my parents are dating. They're both happy with their significant other.
But I feel like the good thing at your age is, like, are they really?
Yeah.
You know, like, they don't have to help raise you.
Yeah.
They don't have an opinion on your life.
Yeah.
Like, I won't even say both, all of my step-parents, like, I mean, they had a hand in raising me. So, like, I've been raised by, like, 3 different guys and 2 different women.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm just a melting pot of a hot mess.
Yeah. And, like, I was already raised in a perfectly well-off adult by the time, like, they called it quits. And I feel like that was for instance, where, like, they kind of were together for the kids.
Yeah. I think so, too, because pretty much as soon as you both grew up, they were like,
graduated.
By the way, we're going to do this now.
For sure.
So, yeah, I think it's like, well, we don't have to raise, they're out on their own.
Yeah.
Like, we don't
and,
have
like,
to raise
kudos to them
now.
for trying that hard for that long. But, like, if you're not happy, ultimately, like, just
bounce, baby.
Yeah.
Out that door.
Yeah. But, like, also try. Don't just give up. Because, like, that's what everybody kept telling me and Corey.
Also, don't give up
They're
over
like,
a dumb fight. Like,
divorce is easy nowadays. And I was like, why would you tell someone who's newly married or just getting ready to get married, like, divorce is easy? I was like, that shouldn't be your answer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he didn't do the dishes, divorced.
Said divorce is easier than marriage. So.
Yeah. But, a question I thought was weird, but I kind of liked it. And it said, if you had the option to eradicate pain from your life, would you? Why or why not?
I would not.
No.
Because pain is beauty. I mean,
it's a driving force for most people.
Yeah. What kind of art would we have without pain? Like, how would you sit down and watch a movie that you love and not resonate with characters without pain or turmoil?
Yep.
And I've always struggled to I'm actually going to quote myself here real quick.
My gosh.
Bust out that quote.
The foreshadowing of the pretentious douchebag. It's happening now. He's showing it. He's quoting himself.
Hey, if you have a good quote.
I have a really good thing that I'm
wrote. Just saying, I told him it would happen.
That basically answers this exact question.
Nice. Well, while you're looking for that one, answer another one.
Oh,
you found it?
Yeah.
Oh, go right ahead, baby.
So I think heaven has always seemed like an obscure concept to me because there's beauty in pain. A plane of existence absent of pain without fear or appreciation would yield the most meaningless of art. And what is life if not art? Or perhaps I myself have grown too self-destructive to comprehend such peace.
Hashtag Russell Garrett. That was beautiful.
So
what I really did like
that. Just a side note off your little quote. People believe and want to go to heaven to get rid of the pain. They want the peace because they are dead.
Right.
So that's like the only reason we feel pain is because we sinned. Adam and Eve sinned. So like the world was supposed to be pain free and all happy go lucky, which is why people look toward heaven because they want that.
Yeah. And I get that.
But none of us are going anyway, so you're fine.
Well, I get that.
Party in hell. Whoop, whoop.
I can't comprehend a world without pain. And part of that is just probably because I'm comfortable with pain, whether it being emotional or physical. It's part of life. It's part of the human experience. Life isn't about being happy. life is about experiences and having as many of them as
Good
you can.
and bad, and
Yeah, good and bad. And, you got to take the bad with the good, and you got to find the ones.
But if you didn't
each
have
day.
bad, like, nothing would feel good.
Yeah.
Right.
It would just be life. Like, that's it's
Right.
plateaued.
You'd just
So
be
that's-
breathing.
Yeah.
That's also why I struggle with the concept of heaven, is because, after, 10 years, 10,000 years, time doesn't exist there, whatever.
Yeah.
After however long, like, at what point do you just feel numb?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what heaven sounds like to me.
Yeah,
It's just
honestly,
like
numbness.
numb. That's
Yeah.
what being on medication felt like. That's what I didn't enjoy about it. Because even with,
I'd rather
just-
feel something than nothing.
yeah, you gotta have those ups, you gotta have those downs, you gotta have the intermingling of the good days and the bad days. Because I mean, you can't really truly appreciate a good day if they're all good days.
Yeah.
So, I don't. But to each their own.
That made a lot of sense.
How people want to spend their Sundays.
Sitting on the couch eating ice cream.
Not condemning or judging anyone.
No, you do you, boo. Praise Jesus. So, what's the most important value you would teach your children? Honesty, kindness, or courage?
Honesty, kindness, or courage.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to say courage.
Yeah, I mean, I got to pick courage, because I could pick honesty, but
I mean, you
Sometimes
have to
you
have
gotta
courage.
lie.
Yeah. Well,
well, I mean, honesty isn't always necessarily called for. Kindness.
like, does this dress make my
isn't-
butt look big?
Yeah, sometimes you got to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a kind lie. Kindness isn't always necessarily the appropriate response.
Yeah.
But if you're courageous, you're gonna have the courage to tell the truth when you need to,
Mm-hmm.
and you're also gonna have the courage to be kind when you need to. Because how many kids don't have the courage to be kind to someone because it's going to be looked upon as weakness
They're
in front
weird,
of their
yeah.
peers.
The victim of the bully or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many kids are the victim, and not necessarily because they lack the courage, but they're the victim. Well, I mean, yeah, they're the victim because they specifically lack the courage to do anything about it or to stand up to the bully. When 9 times out of 10, all you have to do to the bully is just be like, "Hey,
That's not cool.
fuck you.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
sex with your mom. What are you gonna do about it?"
Yeah.
Maybe you get punched in the face,
Yeah.
but you got to have the courage to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And I think courage is probably one of the best things you can instill in someone.
I agree. I didn't agree until you kept going. Just because, like, I think kindness is important. However, like, you can be as kind as you want to bullies. They're freaking asshole kids.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Mm-mm.
Because, kill them with kindness. It works when you're, like, working customer service and someone's bitching in your face. Yeah, kill them with kindness. But it doesn't work when you have to deal with it every day at school. And also, I think of my daughter being 22 and in a bar and some guy hitting on her over and over and over. And, yeah, she can keep saying, "Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
she can be
thank you."
kind.
She can be kind. She can be honest. "No, I'm not attracted to you." But when he finds her in the alley, she's going to need courage.
Yeah. To pull that
So-
fucking trigger, because I taught her how to use a gun.
So, yeah. No, I agree. Courage is a good one. That was a good question,
I
Sarah.
like that one.
You really opened my eyes.
With just one last thought on courage. There's a meme going around where it says it defines courage as being able to do what needs to be, or being able to do something that seems impossible. Okay, so that's what it is. Courage. Being able to do something that seems impossible. Stupidity. Being able to do something that seems impossible, and that's why life is so hard.
Oh.
Because is it courageous or stupid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do also, when teaching kids, to be courageous, you do have to teach them there's a difference between being courageous and doing something that you need to do because you need to do it, and jumping off of a bridge that looks a little high just because you want to appear courageous.
Yeah.
So
I
you got to
think-
teach them the, like,
I think it depends on how selfless they are. Because, like, if they're selfish, they're going to do something stupid to appear courageous because it looks good on them. But if they're selfless, they are going to do something courageous to save someone else or to help someone else.
Yeah. And
So,
I think that's a big difference.
I think
and
that's the main difference between stupidity and courage
yeah.
is
Yeah.
selflessness.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah. So you got to kind of like roll that into teaching them too.
I'll teach you first.
Okay.
So
What is something you would like to tell younger Russell about all of this? Like your parents and stuff.
Like what? How young?
Just whatever age. Like a point in life where you like think you wish you had someone to talk to. What would you go back and tell yourself?
Specifically, and it wasn't a phrase or something I came to until I was probably 23, 24, but my favorite thing to tell myself is not every day feels like this. I say it to myself on bad days, really bad days, and even on good days, because it allows me to bring myself back into a moment of appreciation for that moment that I'm in, which is something I always struggled with when I was younger, because I was always waiting for the next fight to end. I was always waiting to get out of the house. I was always trying to anticipate the next time I was going to be happy. And instead, I wish I could go back and probably tell 15-year-old me, because I don't know that me before that would understand
Yeah.
or would have listened, but 15-year-old me probably would have been apt and ready for me to just come tell him and just be like, hey, man, like, no matter the day, just tell yourself not every day feels like this.
I really want to get that tattooed on me now. I like that a lot. I really like that a whole lot.
yeah, because I mean, it works both ways.
Yeah,
if you're
like,
having a bad day,
Yeah. It's
it'll
not
get
going to be
better.
shitty.
If you have a good day, like, appreciate this, because
Yeah.
you're gonna have
Not
a bad
every
day
day
soon.
is going to be like this. Yeah. I really, really like that a whole lot. Yeah, I do like that. So, do you feel like your mom was like stuck in the relationship because of you and your brother?
I can actually let my mom answer this question, because she would always tell me how much she hated coming home from school or coming home in general and there not being anyone home. And like she, as a kid, she always came home to an empty house. That was her house. And she never wanted that for us. And I think that had a lot to do with the decision making for my parents was, because like they probably both should have worked, like growing up, and even in the 90s, like it was about that time where like you couldn't have a single parent home.
Yeah.
Or single
Income.
single income. You couldn't have a single income. We were approaching those times, and a lot of decisions I think they made was strictly based on, us always having someone to come home to, which is sweet in a sense, but I mean, it did its damage, but it also did its good. So you got to take, like I said, you got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. That's all my questions.
Let me see if I have any more.
Oh, I have one more.
Yeah.
I forgot. It was a good one, too. So, if you could pick, like, the perfect person for your parents, who would they be? Celebrity, anybody.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to 15.
Okay.
I'm going to tell me, hey, not every day is going to feel like this. All right?
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to be like, this is how you go about splitting your parents up.
Okay.
And give him that layout.
And
then he's going to go, and then I'm going to be like, and this is how you set them up with these celebrities.
Okay.
And then when I come back to this time, I'm going to be a famous actor / musician because I was capable of setting my parents up with people I wanted them to be set up with.
Nice.
Okay, who's your stepdaddy?
My stepdad is Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm going to sleep with your stepdad.
Oh, God.
Probably.
You'd let me. It's Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Come on.
Oh, Lord.
All right, who's
I
your
don't know
stepmom?
about let you, but that one's a little bit tougher to answer. But I'm probably gonna go with, let's see, it's the 90s. I'm 15. Well, I guess I'm not really 15 in the 90s, but whatever. I'm 15.
We'll just go with it, yeah.
I'm 15. I'm watching a lot of TV. It's probably Aunt Becky.
Well, that didn't work out for either of you, did it?
No, it didn't. Not very well.
Oops.
I mean, I got into that school, though.
That's right.
I
You
succeeded.
got that education.
I got that education. I go
Oh,
visit her once a week.
Oh, God. It's like a bad porn.
She's my stepmom.
Yeah.
Yeah, bad porn.
We visit her once a week in prison.
Oh.
Wow, guys.
Sorry.
We just thought you were being dirty.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
For once. Heaven forbid we make a mistake. The one time you're not being pervy.
So what are yours for your mom and your dad?
See, I'm going to take a different approach than Russell.
You do it.
I'm going to pick who my parents would be the most happy with.
There you go.
So I would put my mom with Bret Michaels. Because
She
that's
would
like her
love
dream
that.
guy.
Yeah.
I like his music. I like Poison. He's got a little bit of money. But I mean, like Bret Michaels is her Nick Carter. Like she's been
yeah.
in love with them since like
For
she
sure.
listened to music. So I would definitely put my mom with Bret Michaels.
I like that.
My dad, I don't know, because like I just think him and my stepmom are perfect.
So
love
he's already
him.
with her.
I love him so much. I mean, I would obviously put my dad with Taylor Swift because like
Just because you want her as your stepmom.
but would he be mad?
No.
I don't think he'd be mad. I honestly, yeah, that one's selfish on my part, but like I don't know who my dad would rather like be with. Like I know he had a thing for Katy Perry, but I don't like her, so I'm gonna nip that in the butt.
Screw my dad's happiness.
Yeah,
I'm not
like,
happy.
So like I mean, I really like him with my stepmom.
You're going to ask him, and he's going to be like the Maxim model on the cover of 1996's
Yeah.
magazine. Like some fucking
Cyndi
weird.
Lauper. I don't know. I do need to ask him though, because I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who I'd put him with, just because. I mean, he's a guy. He doesn't have super high standards.
As long as she's got 2 boobs and some ass.
Exactly, and like money. So like, I could really put him with anyone I wanted to, and
Yeah.
he'd probably be fine with it.
Generalizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, guys have types.
for sure.
Like, would you sleep with Kathy Griffin?
She's real rich. Yeah.
Is there like the possibility that we're going to get married?
Maybe, if you want.
Yes.
If not, she'll just leave.
Yeah.
It's whatever you want.
I don't know. If she's just going to leave, I don't want to feel like a whore.
Okay, so you get
He's
married.
not to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Kathy Griffin.
Yeah. I mean, is she going to...
She's old and annoying.
Can I get her to pump money into DQP?
Oh,
I don't know.
absolutely.
But that's
She'll
what I'm
support
saying. See,
every dream.
as long as they have money, they don't care. So my dad will be with Taylor Swift. He'll be fine with it. She's young.
They'll break up. She'll write another song. It's
Yeah.
great.
I'll be your best friend by then.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, sure, you can write about my dad. I don't
Absolutely.
care. Can I rap on it?
Yeah.
I'll make shit up.
I'll freestyle all over
And
that
you'll be
track.
like, I have a credible source's daughter's on this track.
Yeah.
So this is all real true.
Yeah.
Who would you set yours up with, Sarah?
So my mom would probably be Sam Elliott.
Oh, I love
She
Sam Elliott.
Loves Sam Elliott.
That'd be nice.
Loves him. But like also maybe Jim Carrey because he's funny and like she's not all vain or care
Yeah.
about the looks as long as they're a good person. But my dad's
like 90s Jim Carrey, though.
Yeah.
Maybe he wouldn't have went so crazy if he
Yeah.
was with her.
honestly.
I mean, I like him. It's just not normal.
yeah, he's real
like, he's
weird.
still cool.
Yeah.
But
I'm
it's
picturing
just
Sam
weird.
Elliott because I love him on the ranch. He's freaking hilarious. And then my dad would be like Sandra Bullock or like Denise Austin because he loved her back in the day.
Yeah.
He likes real fit little girls. But like Sandra Bullock's a babe, so I get it.
Yeah. I just got to ask my dad. I'm just like racking my brain.
Do you really want to know though? It's kind of
Yeah.
creepy because then you're like, oh, I know that about you. Weird.
Yeah. I don't know, like, his celebrity crush.
Yeah.
That is kind of weird.
Guys don't talk about that like we do. Like we see somebody and we're like, oh God, Nick Carter, holy
Yeah.
crap, lady boner. But like guys don't talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, our dads don't. They do.
Yeah, they do. But our dads don't.
No.
Our dads are a lot alike. Okay. I'm out of questions. Are you out of questions?
I'm trying to think.
Do you have any questions,
That's what I was going to say.
Russell?
Do you have questions? About us from being
It's your
divorced
15 minutes of
families?
fame.
Yeah, I mean,
Ask the drafty
that's
dames
actually
anything.
that's a good question. I mean, both of you being children of divorce,
Mhm.
do you ever wonder what it would be like had your parents stayed together? I mean, I
Yes.
guess when did your parents get a divorce, Sarah?
Well, they just officially signed papers like last week.
I thought it was when you were older, like you
Yeah.
weren't.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was like over
No, I'm not
18.
joking. It literally was like last week. My mom went and talked to a lawyer. Like it's officially happening. But they
Okay.
separated. I'm sure. I don't know. I was going to ask him.
You're going to ask
I
your
was-
husband when
yeah.
your parents
Yeah,
separated.
he
Okay.
keeps track of that. I was definitely moved out. So it was at least 2013. So probably about 6 years ago. They officially like separated because he's been with Melissa for like 4 years now.
Yeah. Mine was like 97.
Yeah. So it's super hard adjusting to like all the Christmases
Yeah.
and stuff because you didn't have to deal with that. Like all your Christmases were at home and stuff, I'm assuming.
Right. Yeah.
But like now I have 20 different Christmases I have to go to.
Mhm.
My dad's side, my mom's side, Corey's dad's side, Corey's mom's side.
Yeah.
Like there's 45. And it's a pain in the butt. And like you growing up with it, you're like, girl, you just learned to juggle that stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm still learning. It's real
Every
hard.
holiday takes 3 days out
Yeah.
of your schedule.
Honestly, yeah. Like I
'Cause-
need a whole week for
yeah.
Christmas. Thank you.
You got to do 23rd, 24th, 25th,
27th,
sometimes
28th.
26th. Yeah. It's just whenever everybody can get together, and it'll be worse when you have kids because, like, sometimes people don't care if you come over, like your aunt, but like when you have a kid, they care.
Yeah.
They start caring.
Yeah.
You can't get out of
It's
anything.
not just 2 mouths to feed, it's 3 now.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely wonder what it would have been like, especially since mine were like divorced so young.
Mm-hmm.
But like they also still fought so much. Like them not being together didn't improve
Mm-hmm.
any situation
Yeah.
other than they didn't have to deal with it as much. But still, every Wednesday, every other weekend when visitations
Drop
happened,
off.
they were fighting.
Yeah.
So I mean, it wouldn't have been that great, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I don't know that it ever would have worked out because they were just so young. Like my mom, I think,
Like they might have been together
She-
for longer, but it still would have ended this way.
yeah, she would have been 16 when she got pregnant with my sister. Had her at 17. Then like immediately got pregnant with me
Yeah.
at 18 and like had me at 19, I think. So people can be together 10 years and break up over kid stress.
Mhm.
So like
Especially being that young.
I don't know how long they were even together before she got pregnant. I don't know if that's why they got together. Like it was a cute little dating thing and then like, oh shit, that happened.
yeah.
So like I don't think it would have ever worked out just because of their age, and I don't think
Do you think that
that-
they met like later in life it would have? And like had kids when they were ready?
I can't even like think
can't,
about that
yeah.
because it's
You're like, I don't know any other way.
well, like to me they've always also been like the same people. So like I was about to say like I don't even think they would have like grown or changed together because like my dad's grown up not in a like, oh, he's gotten more mature way. He's just more like a grumpy old man now that doesn't really care, doesn't want to put in the effort to fight and argue.
Yeah.
Like, he'd rather just like stay back and watch it all happen. And that's kind of how I am now too. Like, I try not to get into stuff, but sometimes it just happens. But for the most part, I'm like, I don't care, leave me alone. Like, when people try to bring me in their drama.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
But I mean, my mom, she's like, you know, went through all the trials of being a single mom and everything. And now that all of us girls are grown, I feel like now she's like off more doing her own thing and being able to do whatever she wants, while as the last 29 years she couldn't. So yeah, I don't think they ever would have worked out. Like, I honestly, like, the only regret I had when I was younger, I never regretted my parents breaking up. I was never mad at either of them for breaking up, because like, you always wondered why they were together. I saw why they weren't together.
Yeah.
Every week I was like, this is why they're not together.
This is exactly why.
Exactly. So my one regret would have been helping my mom get her second husband, because I did help.
Oh yeah, his stupid baseball hat.
Yeah, it's a very long story and I don't care to elaborate on it, but he was a terrible person. He was terrible to me, to my mom, to my little sister more recently. So and I mean, aside from my little sister, I'm pretty sure my mom regrets that whole relationship. Like, it's just all bad. Yeah. And like, that's the only regret I had. Like, even when we'd be fighting, it was never, I wish my mom and dad would get back together. It was like, I wish you never came into our lives. Yeah. Like, I would literally yell that at him, because, or I'll be like, I wish I never talked to you, because like, I went and talked to him before my mom did, because she told me to. Yeah. So like, I never once was like, I wish my parents were back together. It was just that I wish he wasn't in our lives. Yeah. Or that I lived with my dad, just so I didn't have to be around him. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah.
So, like, not having separated parents, like, if they were to break up, would you have been cool with, like, both of them moving on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends on what age we're talking about, like being younger or like recent.
Probably like 13 when you're just like, break up already.
I think that would have been interesting to navigate. I mean, I don't really know. It would have depended on who they were moving on with, I guess.
And then,
but
like,
I also feel like if they would have, I wouldn't have seen my dad again.
Oh.
So I don't know.
I think something that's good about all three of our situations, whether or not it happened or when it happened, is that we all had our sibling.
Oh,
so like, you have a little brother, Russell, you have a little sister, Sarah. I had my older sister. So like, when we had to go do visitations and stuff like that, I always had my sister to play with. Some sort of like normalcy. Like, she went with me. Yep. Like, I had to go to this strange place at my dad's, you know, but like, I had my sister with me. So yeah. Like, I think even if your parents did move on, you'd be okay, because you'd kind of be looking out for your brother and,
yeah,
you know, just got to get used to it.
Oh, I was going to ask, how early is too early for them to meet the significant other of your new parent?
Ask that one more time.
So, like, say your parents did break up, like, how soon should their significant other be introduced to you?
I think they should have their shit figured out first.
I agree.
So, like, I don't want to... So, even as a kid, how I would think about it is I don't want to meet, you know, a couple short-term people. Like, you know, if I'm 15, my parents are split up, you know, either one is entertaining someone else. They need to entertain them away from the house. I don't need to meet them until they're like, hey, like, this is getting kind of serious. We've been together however long they think it's become serious. So if 2 weeks, they're like, hey, I'm really like all about this. I want to get this. I want to get a feel for this whole, like, everyone together, like, you know, how they're going to do with you, how you're going to do with them, before we get any further. So, I mean, really it's when they decide that this is a serious thing, not like, hey, I've been on a few dates, come meet my kids.
Yeah.
Not
and I feel like that's,
you know,
our generation's terrible at that. Like, every Joe Schmo, they get into their bed. like meets their kids. And then this kid's left with, well, where's Joe? Where's Tommy? Where's Phil? Like, they're introduced to 6 different people.
I knew both of my step-parents before my mother did. Or before my mom or dad did. So that's weird.
Yeah.
My stepmom was friends with my mom's sister.
Oh.
So my mom's sister hooked up my dad and stepmom.
There you go.
And then, of course, I walked up to first stepdad and talked to him. So.
Right. Yeah, and like Dad was with Melissa for a while before we met.
Yeah.
And then Mom was with Kevin for a while, but like I'm nearly 30. My sister's 21. Like,
it's really none of your business
if she
anymore.
wants to get her freak on 85 times, like it's her prerogative. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Like, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, that's also different when you're not the kid living in the house.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I mean, even then, it's still kind of like, would you want to meet,
every one night stand? No.
Yeah, or just, people that your mom's dating, or like, do you want to wait and meet that one guy that's actually
she's
serious
super
with?
serious about? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's way different than somebody who's like in kindergarten and they're meeting their mom's every boyfriend or dad's every girlfriend. Like, it's way different, but
yeah, each situation has its own ups
timeline
and downs and how it works.
Yeah.
But I would say, I wouldn't really go back and change any of it. And I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but, we wouldn't know that we'd be sitting right here having these conversations as close as we all are had it worked out any differently.
True.
Yeah. The only thing I would change was my first stepdad, but then I wouldn't have my little sister.
Yeah.
So.
And that's
Not
what I
really.
said. Like, there's nothing in my
I
life.
probably would have just went and lived with my dad sooner. Like, I didn't go live with him, but I probably would have if I knew that I had to deal with like 12 years of that.
Yeah.
Because then I still would have got my little sister and not dealt with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Like,
that's probably it.
I feel like my parents, I don't know, if they had broken up sooner, they wouldn't have felt like closure, because I think that's what they both needed.
To
was
just
just-
try again
yeah.
and do all that. Yeah.
Because, like, if they had broken up the first time or whatever, like, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
But they needed to make sure that they gave it their best college
And
try.
you should. You
Oh,
should.
yeah, for sure. Like I said, just because they don't do the dishes, it's not reason for a divorce.
But I mean, I feel like even a reasonable person, you could have like a 2-week break, come back, try again, and then, go from there. But like
But like you said,
sometimes,
if you're breaking up,
well, yeah, and
for
not
extended
every other
periods.
week.
Yeah.
But I mean, just one good try, just
clear your mind,
take
clean
a breather.
slate.
Yeah, and then maybe come back. And that's only if like you're threatening divorce right then.
Yeah.
And then of course when you come back, do the counseling and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if somebody's threatening divorce, you should kind of give them some space for a little bit, no matter
Agreed.
which party it is.
Yeah.
And, give time for emotions to calm down before you try again.
Yeah.
But like, obviously don't have a side apartment that you go to when you fight and, you have
that backup.
you have a
plan
lease
always.
on it just
Yeah.
because you go there so much. Like, that's not cool.
No.
But I think everyone needs a little space sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the freedom to do whatever they need to do. But like, that's a relationship. It shouldn't be a hostage situation.
Yeah.
You should want to be there. And like, we're not saying divorce isn't an option, because obviously it is. Like, our parents are both divorced.
Yep.
But if you're willing to put forth the effort and stay together like Russell's parents, then by all means, work it out.
But I do think there is a line where it's becoming too hostile for the children, and they don't need to see that.
Oh,
So.
agreed. And don't ever talk down about the other one in front of the
Oh
children.
my God, yes.
Because, yeah, that happened a lot with us.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many times I heard growing up, you're just like your dad, you're just like your dad. And then she's saying all this stuff that my dad does, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a lot like my mom, too. So,
Yeah. And we kinda
whenever
talked about
he,
that
like,
and-
threw a quirk she had in her face, I was like, I do that, too. Like, I love pins. Like, Ziploc bags full of pins. And, like, that was something he apparently hated.
that
That she
pins.
just hoarded pins and stuff. And it was stupid stuff. But I was like, I do that too. I'm just like my mom. Don't make fun of that.
Yeah.
Like, it hurts you a little bit.
Yep. So that's all I have.
That's
Do
all
you
I
have
got.
anything?
No.
Do you have anything else, Russell?
I don't think so.
Alrighty. So I think that's all we have for today.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for listening. Thanks to Russell for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Again, doing all kinds of crazy stuff for us. And we will see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.